Thank you to those of you who have joined. As you may know, this is the second of 3 sessions that is accessible for free to Surrey Law Society members and also subscribers to the Surrey Junior Lawyer Division mailing list. If you didn't manage to catch the first one, it is recorded on surreylawsociety.org.uk. So have a look on there, and also you'll be able to see other webinars that are being put on by the team. And this 3-part series is all about financial well-being. If you do have questions as we go, drop them in the Q&A, and I'll be reading some out as we go and getting Alina's expert opinions on them. But likewise, if you want to ask a question yourself, then we will leave time at the end, 5-10 minutes or so, for additional questions, and you can come off mute and ask Alina yourself. So whichever you prefer. We'll also be sending around a feedback form afterwards, and we really appreciate it if you did fill this out. It gives us an idea as to what you like, what you don't like, and it also allows Surrey Law Society to put on webinars that are most important to you and something that you'd find most beneficial. So all feedback very much appreciated. That's all for the housekeeping. So on to the more exciting parts about what we're going to cover today. So you'll see I am with Alina, who's going to do the vast majority of the talking today, as she is our expert. And she's a go-to money mentor with over 20 years experience in the financial industry, and has even won awards over the last couple of years as financial education champion by the Personal Finance Society. It's a bit of a mouthful. So really happy to have Alina here. And I would say my favorite thing about Alina from a work perspective is thinking about, well, she really thinks about the psychology behind money as opposed to just the numbers, which you can often get swept up in. I'll hand to Alina shortly, but just so you know what we're covering today, as you can see, strategic financial planning. So we'll be talking about preparing for the future, optimizing your financial strategy, expanding your financial toolbox, protecting your legacy, and everything in between. So it's the next step on from the previous session, and we will have another session coming up in September to kind of finish the series off. But there's a lot to cover today, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Alina. Do remember to send any questions in the chat, and we'll make sure we answer them. Over to you, Alina.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Louise, Eloise, and Helen for facilitating this conversation. This does continue on the mission that we share, the passion that we share, and that we are trying as much as possible to normalize the money conversation and to chip away at the money stigma. And you know, it may sound like buzzwords, but it really is important, and we see it every day in our conversations. We see it every day as elements that stand in the way of people really talking about the important stuff in regards to personal finance, and really preventing people from asking for help and have those constructive conversations that will take them a little bit further towards the future that they really want. So today we're going to continue, just like Jenny said. We covered the foundations last time. We talked about mindset as the element that really drives those meaningful conversations. How you walk into a money conversation, how you drive those money conversations, what motivates you to pay attention to what is important to you, what's relevant to you, what's urgent, beneficial in the context of your aspirations, priorities, and circumstances. So paying attention to that is really important. We're going to touch upon that today with a view of that, you know, putting that strategic hat on, why that is important, when does it show up, what to do about that one. We talked about debt, budgeting, savings, and taxes. These are elements that really allow you, once you understand and you build your understanding around those, they really allow you to pivot. Whatever life throws at you, whatever circumstances, like I said, evolving aspirations and priorities, these elements allow you to pivot really well and resurface in times of struggle, to survive. They allow you to grow and they allow you to thrive. Again, we touch upon different stages in the evolution as financial well-being being a journey. So see today as a way, another opportunity to ask meaningful questions. And like I said the last time, the better your questions, the better your answers, and the more exciting the conversations. So today we're going to look at how you can create a personalized roadmap to achieve your financial goals. This has the reason why this is here is because we want to acknowledge change at all time. Life is not linear, therefore your financial planning shouldn't be linear either. So don't feel like you are being held hostage by a plan, because whatever took you here won't necessarily take you further. So just being flexible yet focused is really, really important. We're talking about gaining clarity on your current financial standing and identify what's next. It's very important to learn how to be risk aware but opportunity focused, so that you can adapt your approach on an ongoing basis. We're going to learn how to make your money work harder for you through tax efficient savings and investments. And it sounds quite dry, but when you think about learning how to put the money to work so you don't have to work all the time, you don't have to trade all the time and energy for money, I think that is slightly more appealing. And being aware of how tax efficient savings and investments can do that on your behalf can be really key of unleashing that or releasing that capacity that you would otherwise, instead of trading all the time and energy for making money, you save some of that time and energy for enjoying the money and achieving all those things and accessing all those experiences that really, really sustain your personal well-being too. And lastly, something that is very overlooked and it shows up as a very poorly covered area in a lot of people's financial planning is estate planning. So whether you're at the beginning of the journey, the you're kind of midway through your journey, or you're right at the end of your career, really looking forward to the later part of your life, estate planning is still super important to take into account. So we're going to cover the basics of that, so you are aware of the elements combined that can really, really help you have a strategic approach on your finances. And I'm hoping with that awareness, you get a little bit more curious to investigate. And if you have a coach, if you have a financial advisor, go grab them. Otherwise, it's onto you to go and explore those options and make things happen just the way you want them to. So without dwelling too much on this, let's start off. I think this framework in particular works really well for the majority of our clients. It's really important when you talk about financial planning and working your way towards your version of financial well-being, to break things down into small, achievable steps. Usually people walk into conversations with a sense of overwhelm. And where do I start? Where do I go? We had a question from an early 20 years old. Hello. And the question was, well, I'm at the beginning of my journey. What do I do? It sounds so complicated. So breaking things down into small, achievable steps, really, really work. And you can see two themes there. You can see the theme of security and the theme of freedom. Security typically is to do with mitigating risks. So again, be risk aware, because change presents you with risks, but also it presents with opportunity. And this is what freedom is about. So security is your ability to navigate risk, change, and deal with, mitigate your risks. And freedom is to create those choices and options for yourself, so you can move constructively towards the future you want and grab those opportunities as they come. So And then the theme for security and freedom, you can then separate it into security and freedom for now, for the here and now, and security and freedom for the future. Really, really important you do that. So what do I mean by that? So when we talk about present security, is to do with having the ability to cover expenses, to pay bills on time, to not having to worry about how you'll get by. Essentially, it's to do with the needs that you have in any present time. Now, we know, and you probably know, that over time, your wants become needs as well. We talk about in financial planning, we talk about, okay, what is it a need? What is it a want? And for those of you who are returning, maybe you remember when we talked about budget, how important it is to differentiate between the needs and the wants. The needs is like the everyday, whatever keeps the lights on and you at your highest level of well-being. And the want is to do with growth, of improving your standard of living, of improving improving your circumstances, from a personal and professional point of view. Now, as we evolve, as we go on this journey, the wants become needs. And so before you know it, you have that question lingering in your mind. It's like, how did I manage before? Now I don't seem to, I earn more and I tend to spend more. How does that happen? It's because you have evolved. But this question is a very good question when you, just before, so when you plan for the future, or you're just before experiencing significant milestones in your life, such as welcoming a baby, getting married, buying a home, all this, changing jobs, relocating, things like that, is really, really useful to pause and ask yourself, do I have capacity to take the next level on? Okay, and can I do that? Am I equipped financially to experience to transition seamlessly into the next phase? So ask yourselves that when you talk about present security. Am I okay in the now? Am I able to flow? Am I able to go to the next level in a good shape? And this is one of the ways to achieve that present security, just like we touched upon last time, is to really pause and take stock. What comes in, what goes out, and what do you actually keep, okay, at the end of the month? And that should give you a really good visibility on the potential risks that you may be facing through the periods of change, but also the opportunities that you could go after should you allow yourselves to. I spoke with a lovely young lady yesterday, and she said, shamefully, I have been postponing this conversation for a year. And she's right. She's been moving this call for a year. She said, because I was so stressed that I'm not going to be able to have a conversation without falling apart. And one of her colleagues, who is also a client of mine, sat her down and said, look, you need to start somewhere. And that somewhere is to put together I use a mindful spending diary, things that, a diary that allows you to have that visibility on your non-negotiable spending and your negotiable spending. And it turns out that her reality was a lot better than she thought to. She was struggling to see options in her finances, and all of a sudden she is able to keep some money. Her husband is able to keep some money. Now the conversations that are struggling with a home, he's very stressed about starting a family because he couldn't see options in the finances. Now they can start talking about options. They can start build something. So what held them back from planning forward was the fear of failure. What if we fail to go when we go to the next level? So before you start doing any planning of what's, whether it's about the short term, medium term, long term, please go back to the basics. What income comes in? What do we spend in them on? What are we likely to keep? what can we do with the money that we keep? And if you can't keep any money, what stands in the way? So constructively. Now, when we talk about present freedom, it's about it being able to make choices that allow you to enjoy life. And this is a really good question. Are we able to afford the choices that we would like to? A lot of people walk into coaching conversations with a blank canvas thinking, I am no good at this. I'm not good with money. I don't know, because they look in the future, and the future is overwhelming. So one of the things that we really go through is having a strategic view on your finances, and that starts with your assets, the things that enable you to have choices, the salary that you have, the other income that you can have through your savings, through your investments, through your rental properties, through other means. So assets is one thing, and then looking at the liabilities, meaning all those things that could potentially erode the affordability of your choices. And that goes back to debt. And so if you have been with us last time, we did go through debt as a it's probably one of the number one elements of financial stress. Just understanding what sort of debt do you have? Is that really standing in the way of you creating further choices? Is it really eroding your future income, or is it something that you really can stay on top and it enables you to build assets whilst you can go and plan towards other things and experiences that you really want to get done? Liabilities come from not only debt, but also your spending. So for those of you who may have experienced significant milestones, you know that being depleted energetically, welcoming a child into the world, as joyful as it is, it does create extra spending. It does create extra financial commitments. Putting kids through school, again, preparing for retirement, again, it creates that extra pressure on potentially on your finances. Understanding what is it that can erode our choices, but most importantly, what is it that contributes to us creating those choices and being able to afford those choices. So don't think you walk into a planning conversation with a blank canvas, because the mere fact that you're there, you're generating income, it's a great start, because the number one asset is ultimately you. So assets and liabilities. So make a list of all these things that really contribute to your financial well-being, and make a list of those things that potentially detract you from financial well-being. And then you can build those conversations and you can make informed decisions with a clear mind. Future security is about the ability to deal with a financial shock, is the surprises that you don't really want. If you have a mortgage, you know that once you sign that contract, yes, you own some of that roof over your head, but that comes with responsibilities. If a boiler breaks down, if the windows need changing and so on and so forth, repairs, it's all on you, no one else's responsibility. So your future security is to do with preparing for those unexpected costs. Also is to do with protection. So cost is a loss of income or savings because of the unexpected costs. Protection is to do with loss of life, of health, of income, of ability or capability or capacity. And so as I was mentioning, do factor in change. And depending on what stage you're at in your financial well-being, it's very important to factor in protection, because that ultimately ensures that you are ready, you are able to navigate change as it comes. So protection is to do with insurance, and then things like writing a will and power of attorney. We'll come back to that. Future freedom is again similar to the here and now. It's only with the perspective, it's a long-term view on your life, is to do with a plan that it encompasses your hopes and dreams and aspirations for the future. And the way you achieve that is to include in your financial planning things like investing for the future, investing in your, starting with yourself, and making sure that you maximize your potential, your personal and professional potential, but also, just as I was mentioning, making sure that you put that money to work through investments, through accumulating assets, and sometimes through this ongoing balancing of trade-offs, making trade-offs, balancing instant with the deferred gratification. And that goes back to mindset again. So looking at the practicalities of finances is to do with all the things that you can put in place, you can control, but also is to do with managing your mindset at all time to make sure that you can stay on top of things, whatever uncertain times you may be navigating. Financial plan is the success of it is how you can seamlessly move from your current reality towards your goal, whatever life presents you with. Like I said, life is not linear, therefore your financial plan shouldn't be linear, should be focused yet flexible. What will always keep you on track is, like I said, breaking things down into small achievable steps. And if you put things on a timeline, you would have short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. And our team have wonderfully mentioned quite a few examples of what a short-term goal can be. So anything that it can range from having an emergency fund in place, having a debt repayment plan in place. For if you are in your early 20s, early career, it's about making sure that your credit is on track. You have a good credit score. You have emergency savings in place. You can start creating a system around your spending, and you learn how to save and create more options and choices going forward. And when you're early in your journey, again, the focus is on the here and now and the needs and so on. As you move towards kind of a medium-term goal, is to do with things that improve your standard of living, maybe looking at purchasing a home, making career changes, or maybe starting a business, putting kids to school and so on. Long-term goals are usually to do with quality of life, improving your quality of living, making sure that you don't trade all the time and energy for making money, but instead putting money to work. And that is to saving through saving for retirement, maybe looking to enable yourself to reduce the working hours and kind of ease into later life while still enjoying doing things that you're good at and you're happy to trade for an income.
I was just going to add, Alina, there,
yes.
with something that we discussed before that I thought could be helpful to share is, when I first saw the slide before, or the process that we focus on there, it's very easy to think, right, this is what I'm focusing on now, then I will move on to this one, and then I'll move on to this one, as opposed to how it should probably be, which is, this is my primary focus, but I still need to be thinking about my medium goals or my long-term goals. It's very easy, earlier on in your career to perhaps not be thinking about, say, retirement, or even thinking in the current state, it's going to be too difficult for me to get on the property ladder anytime soon. So you end up putting things off. Whereas in reality, we should still be thinking about those medium and long-term things and working out what balance is right for you, dependent on, if, say, you've got debt to pay off, or having a house is more important to you than say having a child. Perhaps you don't want children, and how that balances out. And I think that's probably something to highlight for us to bear in mind, that it is thinking about those three parts and how they work together, I suppose.
That's so good. Thank you for mentioning that, Jen. And yes, absolutely. One of the things that really can get in the way is that hyper focus on the here and now, for example. So I know a lot of clients, just like you said, Jen, walk in saying, yeah, but I'm saving towards this emergency fund. I can't afford to do anything else. And forgetting that, at the end of the month, if you can keep some money, you can absolutely create standing orders towards segregated little pots that are to do with, yes, saving some for an emergency fund, but also save towards a holiday that you want, and saving and also saving towards your retirement along the way. The easier decisions to make are the decisions that are out of your hands. So retirement contributions, once you've set it up, it's there for you to, things are working in the background without you making an effort. Once you set up a standing order, after you've really understood that you've noticed a pattern of keeping some money month on month, then setting a standing order into segregated accounts, little amounts and often, can really, really make a difference for you. And you do it at the beginning of the month rather than the end of the month. And that's you navigating the month in a stress-free manner, because now decisions are being made, the systems are working for you, and you create that mental capacity to be present in the here and now, and deal with things that may come your way as part of the change, basically the normal course of life. Making money work hard for you through savings and investments, I have to say, a lot of times people walk into conversations with the mindset of, do I save or do I invest? And the question is, when saving, when investing. So that's the more constructive way to talk about savings and investments, because they do work alongside really well. Savings are for here and now, short to medium term. For anything that you need cash reserves, for things and experiences that really contribute to your growth and to sustain your financial and personal well-being. Investing is longer term, medium to long term. So for those things that you don't need cash reserves for in the here and now and soon, you can absolutely start investing little and often, like I said, for later, for projects that are a bit further in the distance. Why investing? I know for sure that, especially for people who start earning a little bit more, they're still trapped in the mindset of protecting and cautious approach. And I have loads of clients who started the journey with having significant cash reserves in not savings account, their debit account, in the bank account. So please don't do that. Please seize the opportunity to put that money to growth through interest rates, but also once you start earning a little bit more, just to seize the opportunity to take a little bit of risk, understanding a little bit about investments, because investments can potentially return more over time. They do have the ability to protect your wealth from inflation. You are able to start small and invest regularly from your income. It's typically money that you're not going to miss. Okay, so start small with the amount that you're not likely to miss, and put that money to work and enjoy the power of compounding growth, compounding interest. Now, when it comes to investment, people ask me, so what do I invest? I'm really confused. The only time they may have heard about investment and maybe a diversified portfolio and risk and return is when people talk to them about pension. And that's a great place to start. And I usually remind people that when you're presented with investment options, you typically you will see portfolios on a lovely chart like this one. On this left-hand side, as I look at it, you have the return going up, and at the bottom you have risk and time. Usually risk and time are there together for a good reason, because with investments, the longer the time you can leave that money be, the higher the return you can afford to take. Now, what gives your investment the risk is the amount of shares you have in that portfolio. Okay, so the more shares you have, obviously shares, unlike cash and bonds and property, are quite volatile. So the more shares you have, the higher the risk. But also with shares, you have the highest potential level of return out of everything. Bonds are cash, and bonds are typically what drive returns through interest rates. Shares usually is dividends, and the dividends come from those companies doing magical things to increase profitability and to be able to share some of that profitability with you, the shareholder. So it's when investing, just like I said, savings short term, they're a safe and secure way to put money away. There's no investment risk because there's no price volatility. If they say they're going to give you an interest rate, that's the return you can forecast. Over longer term, obviously, unlike these times, we've usually seen low interest rates, and with low interest rates, you can lose money in real terms after accounting for inflation. With investing, obviously, the value can fall. It involves taking investment risk. But just like I said, if you are in the game with small and often investments, there will be times when you buy high, there will be times when you buy low, but overall we see better long-term returns, and that can really help not only increase the value, the growth of your money, but also can fight off the effects of inflation and increase your purchasing power. For those of you who really love your charts, I think this one is quite telling, based on it's just an illustration only. But if you were to see, with going from under the mattress, that's zero risk, but also zero return for your 10,000 over 30 years. Then if you move on to a savings solution with a lower interest rate, probably an average interest rate over the past few years of 2.5, you can see a significant jump over 30 years. And then investments, I would say an 8% would be a fairly prudent level of return to go for, with 8% on an annual basis over 30 years. You can see that 10,000 becoming 109,000. And that is the power of compounding. Year on year, that money keeps compounding. It's like a snowball effect. Okay, something to really, really pay attention to. And I know that for those of you who haven't really tried investing, the thought of volatility can really, really cause stress and anxiety. But what I say, the moment to consider investments is when you have enough cash reserves for emergencies and for things and experiences that you and your family are really, really looking forward to. And then for whatever falls outside that purpose, consider investments for. Now, 4 principles for investment success is to set clear and appropriate investment goals. So look at that timeline and say, what do I need money for when? Investments are for longer term. Set a clear investment strategy with diversified approach. Just like in the previous slide, you can combine different things. It's not, you can go from 100% shares to more cash and bonds and property. You can really play with all these assets, and the combination of them can then set the tone for the level of risk and return for your investments. Maintaining perspective and long-term discipline is key. So with investments, the reason why we don't say all investments is because when you experience change, you go through significant milestones, and the fear or the extra need for income kicks in. You want to have the cash reserves first to really, really go to whilst you keep those investments on track, just in case. And that just in case being, for those of you who still remember the markets during the pandemics, you know that at some point there was a market crash in that March 2020 And for those investors who really wanted access to the investments, that was probably the worst time to access those investments. The ones that did really well were the ones that had the cash reserve, the savings reserves that they needed to navigate the here and now, whilst leaving their investments be. And then the investments really bounced back, and we probably haven't seen as nicer growth in many years as we've seen in the past few years. So patience is rewarded, but also a strategic approach on your finances really pays off as well. And then the fourth principle for your investment success is minding the cost and taxes, seeking to minimize cost and optimize for taxes. And we're going to go to that. So that is to do with an ISA. People often ask me, what is an ISA? An ISA is a really, really useful way. It's a tax-free savings account where you can hold cash or investments. And the beauty of that ISA is that it allows you any cash reserves or investments that you can wrap within an ISA are shielded from income tax and capital gains tax. And it becomes even more important for those of you who move from a basic paying basic income tax to being a high earner, meaning you pay high in income tax and then additional stage. So as your salary increases, you probably know that your personal savings allowance, meaning the returns that you can gain from interest rate, falls from 1,000 to 500 to nothing. And so meaning that if you have savings in a bank account, in a general savings account, anything that exceeds £1,000 for basic taxpayers or 500 for higher taxpayers and well, nothing for additional, anything that exceeds that is liable to tax. So anything that exceeds £1,000 as a basic taxpayer is liable to 20% and then 40% and then 45%. So if you don't want to part with the returns, if you don't want to part with the growth of your money, do consider ISAs as a nice way to shield that returns and the rewards that you can enjoy. There are three mains of ISAs. You can have cash ISAs, you can have stocks and shares ISA and a lifetime ISA. The main thing is you have an annual allowance of 20,000. Within the 20,000, you can have one cash, one stocks and shares, and obviously the lifetime ISA. If you have opened it before you turn 40, or if you're yet to turn 40, this is something, it's a really tool in your toolbox to have, to be able to buy property or to build a tax-free cash pot in pre-retirement. So ISAs are a really, really good tool in your toolkit. Another way to build wealth in a tax-effective way is through pension contributions. Whether you're at the beginning of the journey, mid-journey, or later journey in your career, and obviously as your salary grows, contributing into your pension, it not only that it allows you to build financial security and financial freedom for later years, but it's a really lovely way to reduce that taxable income, to pay less tax, meaning you maximize the value of that salary before that salary is paid to you. So why are pensions important? Obviously, you retain the control because you may have noticed that the pensionable age is really kicked down the road. It's moved from 66 to 67 and then 68, and I don't know where we're going to go later. So if you don't fancy retiring at that time, putting money into a pension is an important way to really take control. And also the state pension is lower and lower, in actual real terms, as in terms of the value and the buying power. So if you want to retain control and have the type of income that is set to sustain you and your lifestyle choices, then putting money into a pension is so important. So it avoids you relying on the state for your income needs in retirement, because state pension is unlikely to be enough. You enjoy a good lifestyle, providing you with what you need to live the life that you want, even when you stop work, or if you don't plan to stop work, at least it's a discretionary thing, it's not a need to. It has great tax benefits, a great way to reduce your tax bill each year, while saving for the future. If you have been with us last time, you know that actually as you grow your salary, as a basic taxpayer, you, for every £100 that goes into your pension, you actually pay £80. But as you start earning more than 50,000, for every £100 you actually pay £60 or £55 in real terms. So think about that. Now, for those of you who are really earning significant in salary, but you also have smaller children, we find that there is a point over 100,000 where you stop being eligible for tax-free childcare. It's really important to acknowledge that when you trade time and energy for money, you need to make money work for you. And that also means taking all the free money that you can get from your employer, just like is the number 4 over there, the employer contributions that you wouldn't otherwise get. You need to stay eligible for all your financial support that you can get to see you through the most taxing periods of life, which is when you have a big mortgage and huge childcare bills. So things like that. So a lot of people do focus on getting more as a salary, but with higher salary, you have higher tax. So be mindful of that. Firstly, paying more tax, and then losing your eligibility for financial help, which is really, really needed. The tax relief on contributions, like I said, for example, if you added as a basic rate taxpayer, if you added 800 to your pension, the government will add an extra 200 in tax relief, obviously because you don't pay that tax. For high rate taxpayer, for every if you want to put 10,000 into your pension, you actually pay 6,000 for that. So think about that when you look at your salary on an ongoing basis. Now, for those of you who are really struggling with, maybe you are planning more mindfully towards retirement, just pay a lot of the question is, well, how do I know this will work for me? How much do I need to aim for? Think about keep in mind the rule of 300, and it's a strategic way to plan closer to what you need in retirement. So the rule of 300 says that once you get gain real visibility on what your likely income need may be on a monthly basis, and that is given by the standards of your living that you currently have, and then you add or take away things that may be relevant or irrelevant in retirement. And so that monthly income need, you time it by 300, and that will give you the ballpark figure that you ideally need to have into your retirement pot when you start drawing out income. And that figure is designed to keep you secure. It gives you the freedom to draw out income for the next 25 to 30 years in retirement without running out of money. Now, the only condition is this only takes into account a 4% drawdown rate, which is considered a safe drawdown rate. So it assumes that year on year you draw 4% out of that pot, whilst the rest of the money keeps compounding. And that would be a way to never run out of money in retirement. The reality is that a lot of people early in retirement need more money than later in retirement. And so it's so important in that case to have all the other tools in your toolbox, and that include ISAs, because ISAs, as you remember, give you access to income in a tax-free environment, meaning you don't pay income tax on that money. Now, personal protection, I can't stress enough how important this is, especially when you're in early stages of your career, when you may not have a high degree of responsibility. You or your family may not have that degree of responsibility. And that means that you don't have huge amounts in savings, huge amounts in investing, so that when the surprises that we don't want happen, like the loss of life, loss of income, loss of health, loss of capacity happen, we don't have anywhere else to turn to. And so a personal protection policy, it promises you to keep you going through by giving you access to the income that you want or you need. So,
Oh,
yes.
sorry, just a quick question there. In the chat that was around when would be a good time to look at personal protection, and I'll hand over to you to answer that. But I know that I definitely get a lot of targeted ads that say the sooner you do it, the better. I presume there's some truth in that.
Yes, absolutely. And we see, I mean, when you're very early in your journey and you have high level of debt, so you have a mortgage, you have, especially if you have dependents, if you are potentially the main breadwinner, I'm talking about the times when maybe a partner needs to step back from earning a significant amount of money due to childcare arrangements and so on. So when you have a high level of financial commitment, but you can't really sustain those commitments in absence of an income. So the question is, what would I do if I need to repay the mortgage? What would I do if I need to keep children in childcare? What do I do if I'm at home incapacitated and I'm not earning? What do I do then? So the answer is, if you can't mitigate those risks through investment savings or other assets that you may sell and release equity from at any point in time, that it gives you the measure of the need of protection in that moment. So usually when you're early in the journey, that's the best time because you're young, you're healthy, and so you may actually be able to access those solutions at a lower cost point than later in life. Okay, so hopefully this answers the question fully. So who needs cover? Outstanding debt, parents with financial dependence, limited personal savings, worried about inheritance tax. That's another thing. We've seen enough drama stories with people having to come up with a significant amount in inheritance tax and nowhere to go. So if you're worried about putting that burden onto your family, then that is a good place to start having a life insurance and talking to a consultant with a professional for that reason, or go on comparison sites, start investigating. And reliance on your income. So, like I said, if the balance is skewed towards one of the two income earners, that gives you the measure of, okay, we have a risk here potentially that needs to be insured for the time being. So where do you start? Be ready with your information. So most insurers will ask you details about your health and medical history. Unless you access these solutions through work, which is more straightforward, if you do that privately, you need to have those informations or that information at hand. They're likely to ask you about your lifestyle, and yes, like I said, the younger you are, the cheaper it tends to be, unless you have a family history and elements that could indicate a potential risk for your health, not now, but in the future, in which case you will have more creative conversations. If you want to investigate this, websites like Money Supermarket has great resources and guides to use and for you to investigate. Another website that I can absolutely recommend is Money Helper. Is a government backed website, meaning they don't have necessarily biases towards providers, and the language is very straightforward, very accessible. If I can do it, you can do it, and that works beautifully for me. So estate planning, again, high level, because it has a lot of elements, intricacies there. It's about not only leaving assets, it's about having a lasting power of attorney in place. So leaving assets through will. It's also about lasting powers of attorney and pension expression of wishes form, which are often overlooked, especially for people of a younger age. Typically, a lasting power of attorney and expression of wishes has been associated with people who are kind of in later, and even wills, people who are later in life, who are, they have enough complexities to look out for. But I couldn't stress more the importance of having these things in place early in your journeys. The wills, it's important to keep them up to date with a 5 years review cycle. They're for the whole of the family, and very important for those of you with small children. I cannot stress enough how important it is to use the will to put your thoughts and your wishes forward in terms of who would you entrust that child to. Should you not be around, should both of you not be around, who would you entrust that child to be looked after, to grow with the values and principles that you want them to grow. So to have the life that you have intention to give them. So it's very important to choose a guardian for dependent children, as well as obviously distributing assets. Lasting powers of attorney has always been associated with loss of capacity in later life. I have to say, we've seen cases of loss of capacity due to mental health challenges over like for younger generation. Lasting power of attorney, there are two types: health and welfare, and property and financial affairs. A lasting power of attorney ensures that your wishes are reflected for those times when you may lose mental capacity, and it ensures that you entrust a person of trust with making decisions on your behalf, and this is so important. Pensions, having an expression of wishes form. You may probably know that your pension sits outside of your taxable estate, not necessarily covered by your will. So if you want your pension to go to who you want to on your death, please make sure that you review your pension, your terms and conditions, and you create that expression of your wishes. You fill it in with the people and the percentages that you want, just like you want things to happen. It creates clarity. It gives and it speeds up the distribution process by the pension trustees. Do them a favor, but also do your family a favor by putting things in order this way.
Just a quick point on that, Alina. I was just going to say, I think it'd be really, money can be very difficult to talk about, particularly when it's tied to something as final, I suppose, as death. But I'd really encourage people as well to have those conversations with their partners, their parents, etc., because quite often we do hear that people have, I guess, found out the difficult way that perhaps their parents haven't had a will set up, and not only can that be challenging from a financial standpoint, but also going through those conversations.
Absolutely. And I think between us in this virtual room, I think we could come up with a lot of stories where we've seen the worst come out, in frictions and fractions happening in the family. So if you really, I think you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your loved ones to actually put things in order to make everyone's life easy, so that the wealth that you've worked so hard to create is distributed accordingly, and it's clear, and it's a clean cut So the probate is seamless. So people they don't suffer really in the process. They may have a lot to deal with on an emotional, personal level already. Now, with that, the risk of not having a will, there are some rules of intestacy, and I know that, with the statistics that 1 in 2 families do go through a divorce. I think it's very important to think about blended families in the context of having a will. Making sure that everything is clean, clear, and accessible and transparent for everyone involved. We mentioned if there aren't guardians appointed for your children, ultimately it can cause anxiety and hardship for your children and the wider family. And having no named executor, someone who is trusted to administer the estate, not only slows down the distribution of assets, but causes a lot of family frustration, tension, and additional expense. So if you don't wish that for your family, please do consider putting a will in place. Now, with obviously this event, you can't but pay attention also to inheritance tax. And as you build more wealth, you would know that every person has an allowance, and you have the information on the right-hand side. So you have a nil rate band of 325, a residence nil rate band of 175. Everything in excess of that is taxed at 40%. Pensions are excluded from inheritance tax. Therefore, this is why it's such a good tool for people to build wealth that they can leave to their children and grandchildren in a tax-effective way. Obviously, the inheritance tax is payable at death and payable on second death if married. Now, the simplest thing is, obviously, I don't try to get people to get married or, close civil partnerships, but this is a point where talking about getting married or having a civil partnership is so important, because you can actually combine, for the sake of your children and grandchildren, you can combine these allowances to make it that more tax effective for whomever gets to inherit your estate. So understanding the benefits of clarifying the affairs and making it as tax effective as possible is very important. Obviously, throughout the lifetime, there are ways to gift and spend in a way that not only that you see that wealth being put to really good work for your children and grandchildren and for yourself during your lifetime, if you choose to give to charity and so on, but also it then puts the estate in the best possible position to incur little or as little as possible tax as possible. So yes, Jen.
I was just going to say, I'm conscious of time, and I know people might have to drop off. So should we can keep these on screen, and we'll also send out the recording so people can check back onto the steps to financial freedom. Perhaps if we just open it up for the last minute's gone, but if people have any questions, we'll give you a couple of seconds. Do raise your hand, and if not, then we will wrap up with this last bit. But I just want to make sure we give people the opportunity to jump out. So we'll leave a bit of awkward silence for 5 to 10 seconds.
Oh, we love an awkward silence.
Clearly, you've covered them all, Alina. So, but as we mentioned in the last session as well, people do have questions. They can reach out to the Surrey Law Society team, who will hand those questions over to us, and we'll make sure we cover them. Also conscious there's a lot of information today, but there's some really helpful steps to make sure that you're making the most out of your current situation and building towards a future you want, which is covered here. Alina, if you wanted to go back to going through, I don't think we've got any live questions.
Yes. I mean, I'm wondering, for the lovely 20 years old that was brave to send us a question in advance, have we answered your question? Or is there anything that you would like to know from obviously it's a build up on onto what we discussed last time, but if there is anything that is really burning, please do use this opportunity to seek clarification.
Maybe two on the spot. I'm
Oh,
sure
well,
I'm sure we would have covered it.
yes, I mean, people tend to segment probably the financial well-being journey from an age point of view, but I would say it's a stage point of view. You know, even if it's a positive or less positive event, people tend to navigate from like thriving to surviving and back and forth. So being able to pivot and work with these elements of financial health is really important. And having that strategic view, okay, what is the best outcome that I can get with the resources that I have? Okay, again, being risk aware, but opportunity focused. So learn how to mitigate your risk. Ask those questions. Are we in a pickle at the moment? Are we opening us up for any risks? Or, you know, if all is covered, there is no risk of, you know, hardship for yourself or for your family in a situation of loss, then go for opportunities. Learn to take a little bit of risk with the money that you're not likely to miss through those investments. Learn how to use things like retirement contributions, because you have so much between, you know, especially for the younger selves who are early in the process. Learn to use risk and time for your benefit. And then our team beautifully put out 7 steps for financial freedom there for you to consider, as in like super practical things. To have at least £1,000 for a starting emergency fund, to pay the most of your bad debt, meaning the super high interest rate usually shows up as credit card debt. Often mortgage is the most affordable type of debt, and it's easy to stay on top of most of the times. So being able to decipher between bad and not so bad debt is crucial. And aiming to invest 10 to 15% of household income into retirement, that is something to look into. I think one of the sweet spots is if you think about your age, half your age, and that would give you the sweet spot in terms of ideal retirement contributions if you feel like you're not funded enough in retirement. Expanding your ISA allowance with junior ISAs, something to consider, especially as you start earning more and not being able to create returns in general savings accounts without being taxed, and building wealth through, you know, being mindful that as you aim towards financial independence, you have the opportunity to give back through charity, but also to your family and like kids and grandkids. So don't leave it until later to put that wealth to good use. Work with your family to help them build the futures that you want to see in your lifetime, rather than post your presence in this on this earth. So that could be the end for me, if no questions. Jen, I think you're on mute.
Classic. You'd think I'd know after all these years. I was just saying, I think we've covered quite a lot here, and hopefully people's questions have been answered by what you covered. I know there were a couple that came through that you then seem to mind read and answer in your general flow anyway. I'm conscious we've run over, so I think a fair few people have had to drop off. But for those that are still on here, do feel free to send us any extra questions. We have the next one coming up in September, which Surrey Law Society will circulate. And last reminder, please do send any feedback on the form. It's really helpful to the Surrey Law Society team, so they know more about what you'd like to see more of or less of, and everything in between. But a big thank you to Alina for that session. I was taking notes as we went through to make sure that I was doing everything on this list as well.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you everyone for sticking with us, and do give us your suggestions. I mean, we grow with you, and if you want this to work for you, you have the power to control it and influence it. So do give us a shout.
Perfect. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and
You
we'll
too.
see you next time. Thanks.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.